We'll now move into the presidential portion of the debate. So first we're going to start off with a budget question. Currently we face an economic crisis of incredible proportions. People have lost jobs and our state government's budget is suffering. Even Georgia Tech's budget has been cut to the tune of $55 million as a result of the crisis. Being realistic, how do you think your objectives and goals as student body president will be affected by the budget cuts?
First thing we have to realize when we talk about budget cuts is that we can't get everything we want. And as students, we often ask for a lot, especially in auxiliary services and campus services. But I think we can all agree that the lifeblood of this institute are academic programs. It's what every student here at Georgia Tech experiences, and it's what's really integral and important to the Georgia Tech experience. So when it comes to budget cuts, academics have to be our #1 priority. The other thing that we need to do is look outside of our academic programs to our auxiliary services and try to find options to bring in outside sources of revenue. Because those departments raise fees on you guys, and that's double dipping out of students' pockets when tuition is going up on the one hand, but fees are going up on the other. And many of these departments have opportunities to go outside and seek outside sources of revenue for advertising and other types of fundraising. You know, personally in my platform, there's a whole lot of things that I like to do, especially with the faculty-student experience, such as a first day lecture where faculty are talking about themselves and talking about their research and trying to humanize that interaction. I'd love to see more collaboration among student organizations. A lot of those initiatives don't require additional funding from the institute.
And this question was one that was generated by the student body, and it's each of you have campaigned on different platforms and clearly have differing ideas on how to improve student life. If you are not elected, how will you continue to carry out your vision and serve the student body?
Well, the reason I'm running for president is because the issues are what's most important to me. This past year I've been serving as the Vice President of Campus Affairs, and I've been working on a host of different issues in various departments across campus to help improve the student life experience in our community here at Georgia Tech. And so next year, regardless of how this election turns out, I plan to continue that work to improve student life, because it's not being SGA president that's the most important to me. It's about making sure that these issues continue on. A long transition doesn't serve anybody on campus over the summer with the new SGA president. And so hopefully through my involvement with this process, I can ensure that all of the initiatives that we've worked on this past year continue to be implemented in the next.
Because of the nature of our students, we have a lot of leaders and multiple organizations working on slightly different aspects of the same issues, such as many organizations in a Haiti relief project. We tend to have an over-programmed college campus, often leading to limited student attendance at events. How would you work to improve the quality and attendance at campus events without restricting the ability of smaller campus groups to do their own programming?
We can talk about collaboration, we can reward collaboration with awards at the end of the year, we can talk about partnering with organizations, but at the end of the day, the one thing that often presents a lot of organizations from actually collaborating is this idea of giving up your autonomy in your organization. Because, for instance, the Haiti relief that went on, a lot of organizations were working on different parts of campus to raise funding for Haiti, and they're often overlapping in their resources. And one of the reasons that I talked to a couple of organizations that they didn't want to collaborate is because they didn't want to have a dictator of the Haiti relief. Well, collaboration doesn't mean that one person has to be in charge of the entire event. It just means sharing resources. And at SGA, we need to be doing more than just talking about collaboration. We give out $4.5 million worth of funding each year. I want to incentivize organizations to want to collaborate with additional funding for food and for giveaways, because those big events that attract everybody on campus, those collaborative events, they're really successful when they have those components to them. And at SGA, we can do additional measures to make sure that we're incentivizing that.
This was another question generated by the student body. SGA is charged with allocating the entirety of the student activity fee, which will amount to close to $5 million. This year, SGA has campaigned to increase the fee so as to provide a larger budget to student organizations and campus departments. If elected, will you prioritize a higher student activity fee to sustain the current budget for students on campus, or a lower student activity fee?
So just a little bit of backstory. The fee increase for next year was already recommended. It hasn't even been fully certified yet downtown at the Board of Regents. So if we're talking, and the way that I understand the question is, in the future, because this past year we've already made our action, so in the future, as SGA president, do you believe in the student activity fee increase? And honestly, I think it's way too early to tell, because we haven't even been granted the one that was just requested last year. You know, this next year, if that fee increase is actually granted to us, we're going to have over $4.5 million to allocate next year, and nobody really knows how that's going to go for us. This past year, we had about $4.39 to allocate, and we were pretty short on money, and so therefore we increased the fee. But to sit here and tell you today whether I'm going to increase it or decrease it a year before it's actually going to happen is way too presumptuous. What I'm going to tell you is we're going to be fiscally responsible in this next year, and then we'll make a judgment call next spring.
Last question. What do you feel was one of the shortcomings in student government this year, and how would you go about improving it next year?
One thing I think that we've come short on this year is carrying a common vision towards you all, student body. Why does SGA exist? Well, I asked you guys that question. I don't know if you could tell me in a sentence what SGA does for you outside of funding and having these elections every year. And frankly, next year I hope that you'd say something like, SGA is working to build a better community on campus, or SGA is working for me. Because that's what we want to do. We want to carry our message directly to the students. This past year, we've made our information readily available. We read on our website, we post briefings, we do a lot trying to get information to the students, but it only are the students who want to seek out that information that go and get it. It's not the average student who comes and finds the information going on about SGA, because we and SGA are not seeking out the average student. Next year, as your SGA president, what I want to do is take the message directly to you. Where we're going to do that is through organizational visits constantly throughout the semester. This is not going to be just a campaign that happens once a year. It's going to be a campaign that happens throughout the year, and you're going to be able to associate a common vision and a common purpose with your student government. So we've talked a lot about various issues today. And the time for us students to wait on someone else to come and fix these issues is over. We, the student body, have to be the ones providing the answers to the questions and to the problems on this campus that we seek to change and seek to address in order to change our community and change the Georgia Tech culture. You know, I don't want to build an SGA community. I want to build your community. That requires you guys getting involved in this process during this election and during next year, and that involves you guys taking an active stand on the areas of campus that you want to change. You know, this past year I've served as the Vice President of Campus Affairs and Student Government. And in Campus Affairs we work with a lot of different departments across this campus to work for you to try to enrich the student experience. You know, we heard a couple problems that happened this year with SGA. You know, I agree. Athletic ticketing in the fall was extremely confusing. I mean, I even could say that Alina and I had a problem trying to register for tickets in the fall. But you know what we've done this year in the spring? We've changed the system. So next fall, you'll see it much more streamlined. We've also preserved block seating. And we've been working on areas like that across this campus, in the campus affairs area, and academics, to make sure that your life as a student is more enjoyable and allows you to contribute to this greater idea of a Georgia Tech community. So what I ask you today is that, first of all, that you visit my website, votejimmywilliams.com. There's a lot more information on there on a host of other issues. And I encourage you guys to vote, starting this Friday, April 9th. Because you guys hold at your fingertips the opportunity to build your community. And the only way, as I said before, that that's going to happen is if you guys participate in this election. So I just encourage you guys to get involved. I encourage you guys to check out the websites and find out all about all of the candidates in these last couple of days. And I really appreciate you guys coming out here on a beautiful Thursday morning to hear us speak. Thanks so much.